The transport ship landed on Station Orion 7 with a soft hum. The doors opened, and Park Yuna stepped out into the cold metal hallway. She was small. Her skin was soft and brown. Her black hair was tied back in a simple knot. She carried one bag over her shoulder and nothing else. The station was huge. It floated in the empty space between 3 different star systems. It was home to the Galactic Youth Academy, a famous school where young aliens from many planets came to learn and grow. The academy had been running for over 1,000 years. It had trained millions of cubs from hundreds of species, but it had never had a human instructor before. Yuna walked through the long hallways. The walls were gray and smooth. The lights were too bright and too white. Everything felt cold and clean, like a hospital. There were no pictures on the walls. No plants, no colors. Just metal and light and the sound of her own footsteps. A tall figure was waiting for her at the end of the hallway. He was a Korathi, a species that looked like a lizard made of crystal. He had 4 arms, each one ending in sharp claws. His scales were pale blue and caught the light like broken glass. His eyes were yellow and had no warmth in them. "You are the human," he said. It was not a question. "Yes, I am Park Yuna. I am the new instructor for the junior cohort." The Korathi did not offer his hand or any greeting. "I am Instructor Velthan. I have worked at this academy for 217 years. I will show you to your quarters." He turned and walked away. Yuna followed. As they walked, Velthan spoke without looking at her. "You will be responsible for 12 cubs. They are the youngest group in the academy. Ages range from 5 to 7 in human years. They come from 7 different species. What are their names?" Yuna asked. Velthan stopped walking. He turned to look at her with those cold yellow eyes. "Their names are in your data file. You do not need to memorize them. Cubs respond to their designation numbers during training." "I would like to know their names," Yuna said quietly. Velthan stared at her for a long moment. Then he made a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been disgust. "Humans," he said, and continued walking. Yuna's quarters were a small room with a bed, a desk, and a window that looked out into space. The stars were beautiful, but the room felt empty. She put her bag on the bed and sat down. Tomorrow, she would meet the cubs. The next morning, Yuna walked into the junior dormitory. It was a large room with 12 small beds arranged in neat rows. The walls were the same gray metal as everywhere else. The floor was hard and cold. 12 young aliens looked up at her. Some of them were very strange to human eyes. 2 of them looked like blobs of blue jelly with no clear shape. They sat close together, their bodies almost touching. 3 of them had fur and tails and pointed ears, like cats that walked on 2 legs. One of them was a small Korathi, much smaller than Velthan, with scales that were a dull gray instead of bright blue. The others were different shapes and sizes, some with too many eyes, some with no eyes at all. They all looked scared. Yuna knelt down so she was at their level. She smiled. "Hello," she said. "My name is Yuna. I am going to be your instructor." None of the cubs spoke. They just stared at her with wide eyes. One of the cat-like cubs, a small female with soft blue fur and big golden eyes, was trembling. Her ears were flat against her head. Her tail was wrapped tightly around her body. Yuna looked at her data pad. This was Tiri, a Felixian. She was 6 years old. Her file said she had been taken from her planet after her family died in a famine. She had been at the academy for 3 months. "Hello, Tiri," Yuna said gently. "That is a pretty name." Tiri's eyes went wide. No one had ever said her name was pretty. No one had ever said her name at all, except when reading it from a list. "Are you hungry?" Yuna asked. Tiri did not answer. On her home planet, that question was a trap. If you said you were hungry, it meant you were weak. Weak cubs did not get food. Weak cubs did not survive. But Una just waited. She did not look angry or impatient. She just smiled and waited. A little, Tiri whispered. Then let us go eat breakfast together, Una said. She stood up and held out her hand. Tiri looked at the hand. She did not know what to do with it. On her planet, adults did not hold hands with cubs. Adults gave orders. Adults took food. Adults did not touch you unless they were going to hurt you. But something about this human felt different. Tiri reached out with her small paw and took Una's hand. It was warm. So warm. Tiri had never felt anything so warm in her life. In the observation room above the dormitory, Velfin watched through the one-way glass. Instructor Mora, a floating sphere of purple gas, hovered beside him. She's holding its hand, Velfin said. That is not in the protocol. Perhaps she does not know the protocol, Mora suggested. She was given the manual. The rules are clear. Cubs must learn independence. Cubs must learn to survive on their own. Attachment is weakness. Attachment leads to death. Humans are known for attachment, Mora said. It is in their biology. They cannot help it. Velfin's scales flickered with annoyance. Then she will fail. The cubs will become soft and weak. They will not survive the trials. Perhaps, Mora said. They watched as Una led the 12 cubs to the dying hole. She walked slowly so the smallest ones could keep up. She answered their questions. She laughed at something one of the jelly cubs said. She will not last one rotation, Velfin said. I will make sure of it. But as he watched the small human walking hand in hand with the trembling Felixian cub, something strange happened. Tiri looked up at Una, and for the first time since she had arrived at the academy, she smiled. Velfin did not understand what he was seeing. Velfin did not understand what he was seeing. He would not understand for a long time. The cubs haul food to the human's plate. The instructors couldn't understand part 2. Strange methods. 2 weeks passed on Station Orion 7. The stars outside the windows did not change. The metal walls stayed cold and gray. The lights stayed bright and white. But something inside the junior dormitory was changing. The other instructors noticed it. First, during mealtimes, the academy had very strict rules about food. Every cub had to line up by species. Every cub had to take their tray and receive their portion. The portions were measured exactly by machines. Each species got different food based on what their bodies needed. The cubs had 12 minutes to eat. They had to eat in silence. When the bell rang, they had to stop eating and return to training dot. This was how it had always been done. This was how it would always be done. But Instructor Park Una did not follow these rules. On her first day, she sat down at the table with her cubs. She did not stand at the wall and watch them like the other instructors did. She did not check her data pad or talk to other adults. She sat right there with them on the same hard bench with the same gray tray of food. The cubs did not know what to do. They stared at her with confused eyes. What are you looking at? Una asked with a smile. Eat your food. It is getting cold. You are sitting with us, said Juan, the small Korthi cub. His voice was quiet and full of fear. He was always afraid. He was smaller than other Korthi his age, and on his planet, small meant weak. Weak meant dead. Yes, Una said. Is that not allowed? Instructors do not sit with cubs, Juan said. Well, I am sitting with you now. Is that okay? Juan did not answer, but he did not move away either. Una picked up her nutrient block. It was gray and hard and looked like a small brick. She took a bite and made a face. This tastes terrible, she said. The cubs gasped. No one had ever said that before. The food was designed by scientists. The food was perfect for their bodies. The food was not supposed to be good or bad. It was just food. But Yuna was making such a funny face that Tiri started to laugh. It was a small sound, like a kitten sneezing. Then Bomb and Dole, the two jelly cubs, started to change colors. They turned from blue to pink to yellow. This meant they were happy. Soon, all the cubs were making sounds, laughing, clicking, chirping. Each species had a different way of showing joy. And all of them were doing it at the same time. The dining hall went quiet. The other cubs from other groups stopped eating and stared. The instructors along the walls looked at each other with worry. Velthan stepped forward. "Instructor Park, you are disrupting the meal protocol." Yuna looked up at him. She was still smiling. "I am sorry. We will try to be quieter. The cubs are not supposed to make noise during meals. They are laughing." "Is laughing not allowed?" Velthan did not have an answer for this. The rules said silence during meals. The rules did not say anything about laughing because no one had ever laughed during meals before. "Continue your meal," he said finally, and stepped back. But he watched. He watched very carefully. The days went on. Yuna continued to break the rules in small ways. She asked the cubs about their day. She remembered what they told her. When Tiri said she had a bad dream, Yuna asked about it the next morning. When Bomb and Dole learned a new word, Yuna celebrated with them. When Juan finished reading a difficult book, Yuna told him she was proud of him. These were small things, tiny things. But to the cubs, they were everything. Velthan kept careful notes. He wrote down every rule that Yuna broke. He wrote down every minute she wasted on talking instead of training. He wrote down every time she touched a cub with kindness instead of keeping proper distance. "She is ruining them," he told Mora one evening. "Look at the Phylixian. She has stopped hoarding food." This was true. When Tiri first came to the academy, she would steal extra food and hide it under her bed. This was normal for Phylixians. On their planet, food was always running out. You had to save it. You had to hide it. You had to be ready for the hunger that was always coming. But now Tiri ate her meals normally. She did not steal. She did not hide. She finished her food, and then she waited, calm and quiet, until the others were done. "Is that not a good thing?" Mora asked. "No," Velthan said. "It means she has forgotten how to survive. When she returns to her planet, when the famine comes again, she will not know what to do. She will die." "She is 6 years old," Mora said. "She has many years before she returns to her planet." "That does not matter. We are supposed to train them for survival. We are supposed to make them strong. Instead, this human is making them soft." Mora pulsed quietly. The Grenix twins have stopped fighting. This was also true. Bomb and Dole used to push and shove each other. They used to steal each other's food. They used to turn dark colors that meant anger and fear. Now they moved together like one creature. They shared everything. They were calm. "That is also bad," Velthan said. "Grenix must learn to be independent. They must learn to survive alone. They are twins. They will never be alone." "You do not understand," Velthan said. His scales were turning dark with frustration. "This human is changing them. She is changing the way they think. She is teaching them to need each other, to need her. And when she leaves, when she goes back to her own planet, they will be broken. They will not know how to live without her." Mora was quiet for a long time. Or perhaps they will remember her. Perhaps they will remember what she taught them. Perhaps that memory will make them stronger. "That is foolish," Velthan said. "Perhaps," Mora agreed. But even Velthan could not deny what he saw the next morning. "Juan, The small Carty cub who never spoke to anyone, who always sat alone in the corner, who flinched when anyone came near him. That same one was sitting next to Tiri at breakfast. Their shoulders were almost touching. They were not talking, but they were together. And when Una walked into the dining hall, every single cub looked up at her with bright eyes and happy faces. They were not afraid of her. They were waiting for her. Velthan had never seen cubs wait for an instructor before. Cubs avoided instructors. Cubs feared instructors. That was natural. That was right. This was something else. Something he did not have a word for. Something that scared him more than he wanted to admit. The cubs hauled food to the human's plate. The instructors couldn't understand part 3. The cubs gifted started on a cold evening in the 3rd week. The dining hall was quiet. The cubs were eating their nutrient blocks and drinking their protein drinks. Una sat with them as she always did. She was tired today. Her eyes had dark circles under them. She had been up late the night before, reading about each of her cubs' home planets. She wanted to understand them better. She wanted to know where they came from and what they had lost. Tiri watched the human carefully. Felixians had very good eyes. They could see in the dark. They could see small details that others missed. And Tiri saw that Una's hands were shaking a little. She saw that Una was eating very slowly. She saw that Una's tray was still mostly full. On Tiri's home planet, this meant only one thing. Una was weak. Una was hungry. Una was dying. Something twisted in Tiri's chest. It was a feeling she did not understand. It hurt, but not like a wound. It hurt like seeing something bad happen to someone you cared about. Tiri looked down at her own tray. She had a large protein cube on it. It was the biggest one she had gotten in weeks. On her planet, she would have eaten it fast before someone took it. She would have hidden it under her tongue and swallowed it whole. She would never, ever share it. But Tiri was not on her planet anymore. Slowly, carefully, Tiri picked up the protein cube. It was heavy in her small paw. She looked at it for a long moment. Then she placed it on Una's tray. "For you," Tiri whispered. Her voice was so quiet that only Una could hear. "You are too thin. Mothers should not be thin." Una stared at the protein cube. Then she looked at Tiri. Her eyes were filling with water. Tiri had seen this before in some species. It meant sadness. But Una was also smiling. How could she be sad and happy at the same time? "Tiri," Una said. Her voice was shaking. "This is your food. You need it. You need it more," Tiri said. "Please eat it." Una picked up the protein cube. She held it in her hands like it was made of gold. Like it was the most precious thing in the universe. "Thank you, Tiri," she said. "This is the kindest thing anyone has ever done for me." Tiri's ears went up. Kindest? She did not know that word. But the way Una said, it made her feel warm inside. The next day, it happened again. This time, it was Bomb and Dole. The jelly twins oozed across the table and pushed part of their mineral supplement toward Una's tray. The supplement looked like glowing blue sand. It was specially made for Greenwich's bodies. Una could not even eat it, but that was not the point. "For you," Bomb said. Or maybe it was Dole. It was hard to tell them apart. "We share with you," said the other twin. "Because you share with us." Una's eyes filled with water again. She did not eat the mineral supplement, but she kept it on her tray for the whole meal. She kept looking at it and smiling. The day after that, Juan gave her half of his leafy greens. His hands were shaking when he did it. He did not say anything. He just pushed the leaves toward her and then looked away quickly. "Thank you, Juan," Una said softly. "This means so much to me." Juan's gray scales turned a little pink. This was what happened when Corothy felt embarrassed. He still did not speak. But he sat a little closer to Yuna for the rest of the meal. Soon, every cub in the group was doing it. Before they ate their own food, they would take a piece and put it on Yuna's tray. The ones with 4 arms gave more than the ones with 2. The ones who ate a lot gave bigger pieces. But every single cub gave something. Yuna's tray became a mountain of different foods. Some of it she could eat. Some of it she could not. But she never said no. She never refused. She accepted every gift with tears in her eyes and thanks on her lips. The other instructors could not believe what they were seeing. "This is impossible," said Instructor Mora. "Cubs do not share food. It goes against every survival instinct in their biology." "The Felixian especially," said another instructor, a tall insect-like being named Click. "Felixians will kill each other over food. They have wars over food. And this one is giving away her largest portion?" Velfin watched from the corner of the dining hall. His yellow eyes were narrow. His scales were dark with confusion and something that might have been anger. He walked over to Yuna after the meal was done. "What have you done to them?" he demanded. Yuna was helping Tiri clean her face with a soft cloth. She looked up at Velfin without fear. "I have not done anything," she said. "Cubs do not share food. This behavior is unnatural. It is dangerous. You have corrupted their instincts." Yuna stood up slowly. She was so much smaller than Velfin. The top of her head barely reached his chest. But she did not look small. She looked strong. "I just ate with them," she said. "I talked to them. I listened to them. That is all. That cannot be the explanation." "Why not?" Velfin opened his mouth to answer, but no words came out. He did not have an answer. He had been an instructor for over 200 years. He had trained thousands of cubs. He had followed every rule, every protocol, every procedure. And not once, not ever, had any cub given him food. Not once had any cub looked at him the way these cubs looked at Yuna. Not once had any cub loved him. The word came into his mind without warning. Love. It was a human word. Korathi did not have a word like it. They had words for loyalty, words for duty, words for survival, but not love. Velfin looked at Tiri. The small Felixian was holding Yuna's hand. Her golden eyes were bright and happy. Her tail was swaying gently. She was not afraid. "You have broken them," Velfin said. But his voice was not as angry as before. It was confused, almost sad. "No," Yuna said gently. "I have not broken them. I have just shown them that they are worth feeding, that they are worth caring for, that they matter. Cubs should not need such things. Everyone needs such things. Even you, Instructor Velfin." Velfin stepped back. His scales were flickering with colors he could not control. He turned and walked away without another word. But that night, alone in his quarters, he could not stop thinking about what he had seen. 12 cubs from 7 species, all of them sharing their food with one small human. All of them choosing to go a little hungry, so she could eat that. It made no sense. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. The cubs haul food to the human's plate. The instructors couldn't understand Part 4. The council's inquiry. The message came on a gray morning. Park Yuna was called to appear before the Academy Council. The council was made up of 12 representatives from the 12 most powerful species in the galaxy. They met in a great circular chamber at the heart of Station Orion 7. The walls were made of black stone that came from a dying star. The ceiling was so high that it disappeared into darkness. In the center of the room was a small platform where the accused had to stand. Yuna walked into the chamber alone. Her footsteps echoed on the stone floor. The 12 representatives sat in hovering chairs that formed a circle around her. Some of them had bodies made of flesh. Some were made of light. Some were made of things that had no name in any human language. The director floated at the highest point. It was a being of pure energy, held inside a geometric shape that glowed with soft white light. It had ruled the academy for 3,000 years. It had seen millions of cubs come and go. It had never seen anything like what was happening in the junior dormitory. "Instructor Park Yuna," the director said. Its voice came from everywhere and nowhere. "You have been called here to explain your actions. The council has received many complaints about your teaching methods." Yuna bowed her head. "I understand." The Phylixian ambassador spoke first. He was a large male with orange fur and scars all over his face. His voice was a growl. "You have corrupted our cub," he said. "Tiri comes from a warrior bloodline. Her ancestors survived famines that killed billions. They survived because they were strong, because they fought for every bite of food, because they never shared with anyone." He pointed a clawed finger at Yuna. "And now she gives away her food to a human. She holds hands with other species. She smiles and laughs like a fool. You have made her weak. When she returns to our planet, she will die. Her blood will be on your hands." Yuna listened without speaking. When he was done, she nodded. "Thank you for sharing your concerns," she said. The Korethi representative spoke next. He looked very much like Velthan, but older. His scales were almost white with age. "The Korethi cub Juan was already weak when he came here," he said. "We sent him to the academy hoping you would make him strong. Instead, he's become even weaker. He sits with other cubs. He speaks to them. He shows them his feelings." His voice was full of disgust. "Korethi do not show feelings. Korethi are stone. Korethi are ice. This cub will be an embarrassment to our entire species." The Greenix representative was a large blob of purple jelly. It spoke by vibrating the air around it. "We have different news to share," it said. "Our twins, Bomb and Dole, have shown improvement that we did not expect. Before the human came, they fought constantly. They hurt each other. They were angry and afraid. Now they are calm. They work together. Their minds are growing faster than any Greenix we have seen in centuries." The Phylixian ambassador made a rude noise. "Calm is not strength. Working together is not survival. This human is teaching them to depend on each other. What happens when one of them dies? The other will fall apart. Perhaps," the Greenix representative said, "or perhaps the love they share will give them something to live for, something to fight for." The debate went on for a long time. Some representatives wanted Yuna removed from the academy. Some wanted her arrested. Others were curious about her methods. Others thought she should be studied like a strange new species. Through it all, Yuna stood quietly on the small platform. She did not argue. She did not cry. She just listened. Finally, the director pulsed for silence. "Instructor Park Yuna, you have heard the concerns of this council. You have been accused of breaking protocols, corrupting instincts, and endangering the future of your cubs. What do you have to say for yourself?" Yuna looked up. Her dark eyes moved slowly around the circle, meeting the gaze of each representative. Some of them looked away. Some of them stared back with anger. Some of them seemed curious. "May I tell you a story?" she asked. The director pulsed. "You may." Yuna took a deep breath. "On my planet Earth, there was a time when human children were raised the way you raise cubs here. They were given food and shelter, but nothing else. They were not touched. They were not held. They were not loved. The scientists thought this was the right way. They thought it would make the children strong." She paused. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking slightly. "Those children died. Not from hunger. Not from cold. They died because no one loved them. Their bodies simply gave up. They had everything they needed to survive, but they had nothing to live for." The chamber was silent. Your cubs are not dying, Yuna continued. But they are not living either. They are surviving. There's a difference. Explain this difference, the director said. Yuna thought for a moment. Surviving means your heart is beating. Living means you are glad that it is. Surviving means you eat so you do not starve. Living means you share your food because someone else's hunger hurts you more than your own. She looked at the Felixian ambassador. Tiri gives me food because she has learned what love looks like. She is practicing. She is learning that there are people in the universe worth going hungry for. She looked at the Koriru representative. Juan shows his feelings because he has finally found people who will not hurt him for having them. He's learning that he is allowed to be something other than stone. She looked at the Greenwich representative. Baum and Dole stopped fighting because they discovered that together they are stronger than apart. They are learning that love is not weakness. It is armor. Eunice straightened her back and spoke to the whole council. Where I come from, we have a word. Family. It does not mean you share blood. It does not mean you are the same species. It means you choose to care for someone. It means you would give them your last meal. It means their pain becomes your pain, and their joy becomes your joy. Her voice grew stronger. Your cubs are not weaker than they were before. They are stronger, because now they have something to protect. They have people who will notice if they do not come home. They have people who will share food with them when they are hungry. They have family. The chamber was completely silent. Even the beings of light and energy seemed to be holding their breath. That is what I have taught them, Yuna said. And I will not apologize for it. The director pulsed slowly, thinking, processing. The council will consider your words, it said finally. You are dismissed. Yuna bowed and walked out of the chamber. Her heart was pounding. Her legs were shaking. She did not know what the council would decide. She did not know if she would be allowed to stay. But as she walked back to the junior dormitory, she found 12 small faces pressed against the window, waiting for her. Tiri, Juan, Baum and Dole. All of them. They had been waiting for her to come home, and Yuna knew, no matter what the council decided, that she had already won. The cubs haul food to the humans' plate. The instructors couldn't understand part 5. The lesson 3 months passed. The station still floated in the cold darkness between stars. The walls were still gray metal. The lights were still too bright and too white. But something had changed. Something deep and important. Something that could not be measured by machines or written in reports. The Academy was learning to love. It started small. The council had decided to let Yuna stay. They called it an experiment. They said they wanted to study her methods. They said they would be watching closely to see if her cubs truly became stronger or weaker. So they watched. And what they saw surprised them. Tiri scored highest in her class on the survival tests. Not because she was the fastest or the strongest, but because she never gave up. When she was tired, she thought of Yuna's smile. When she was hungry, she remembered the protein cube she had given away. When she was scared, she remembered that there were people waiting for her to come home. She survived because she had something to survive for. Juan, the small Karthi who everyone thought was weak, saved another cub from drowning during a water training exercise. He did not think about himself. He did not calculate the risks. He just saw someone in trouble and he jumped in to help. When the instructors asked him why he did it, he looked confused by the question. She is my friend, he said. Friends help each other? The instructors did not know what to say to that. Baum and Dole became the top students in communication class. They could speak to almost any species. They could understand feelings that others missed. They could calm down angry cubs with just a few words. Teachers from other classes started coming to watch them work. How do you do it? Asked one instructor. How do you always know what others are feeling? The twins turned soft pink. This color meant thinking. We learned from Yuna. Dole said. She taught us to listen, Bomb added. Not just with our ears. Dole continued. But with our hearts. Bomb finished. The instructor walked away, shaking his head. He did not understand, but he wrote it down in his report anyway. The change spread beyond the junior dormitory. Other instructors started asking questions. Other cubs started hearing stories. The older ones laughed at first. They said it was foolish and weak and would never work with real species in the real galaxy. But then they saw the junior cubs at mealtimes. They saw how they sat together, how they talked and laughed, how they shared food without fighting, how they waited for each other instead of racing ahead. They saw how the junior cubs ran to meet Yuna every morning, how they hugged her legs and held her hands, how they told her about their dreams and their fears and their hopes. They saw love, real love, and they wanted it too. One by one, other instructors started changing their methods. They started sitting with their cubs during meals. They started asking questions and listening to answers. They started using names instead of numbers. Not all of them. Some instructors refused to change. They said the old ways were better. They said love was weakness. They said the cubs would suffer for it later. But fewer and fewer cubs went to those classes. And more came to the ones where instructors smiled and talked and listened. The director noticed. The council noticed. Everyone noticed. And then came the day when Velthan walked into the garden dome. The dome was the most beautiful place on the station. It was full of plants from 100 different planets. There were trees with blue leaves and flowers that glowed in the dark. There was grass that felt like silk and water that tasted like music. It was where the cubs came to rest and play. Yuna was sitting on the grass with her cubs around her. Tiri was braiding Yuna's dark hair with clumsy paws, making a mess of it. Bon and Dole had formed a warm puddle in her lap, their colors shifting through happy pinks and yellows. Juan was pressed against her side, reading aloud from a storybook in his small, careful voice. The other cubs were scattered around them, playing or resting or just enjoying the peace. Velthan stood at the edge of the dome for a long time. He watched. He remembered all the things he had written in his reports, all the rules Yuna had broken, all the times he had said she was wrong. He had been an instructor for 217 years. He had trained thousands of cubs. He had followed every protocol. He had never made a mistake, but watching Yuna with her cubs, he realized something that hurt to admit. He had never done anything right. He walked forward, slowly. His footsteps were heavy on the soft grass. The cubs looked up at him with uncertain eyes. They were not afraid of him exactly, but they were not comfortable with him either. He was tall and cold and had never sat down with them. He was an instructor. He gave orders. He did not join. Yuna looked up at him. She did not smile, but she did not frown either. She just waited. I do not understand, Velthan said. His voice was quieter than usual, almost gentle. I have tried and tried, and I still do not understand. What do you not understand? Yuna asked. Everything. How you sit with them. How you talk to them. How you make them love you when you have nothing to offer them. No strength. No speed. No natural weapons. You are small and soft, and should not have survived a single day on any of their planets. He paused. His scales were flickering with colors he could not control. And yet they would die for you. I can see it in their eyes. These cubs, these children, would give their lives for you without a second thought. Yes, Yuna said. They would. And I would die for them. Why? Yuna smiled. It was a sad smile, but also a warm one. Because that is what family does. Velthan stood there for a long moment. His yellow eyes moved from cub to cub. He saw Tiri, who had once hidden food under her bed and now gave away her best pieces. He saw Juan, who had once sat alone in corners and now read stories out loud. He saw Bam and Dole, who had once fought each other and now moved as one. He saw what love could do. What love had done. "I want to learn," he said finally. The words came out slowly, like they hurt. "I have been an instructor for over 200 years, and I want to learn from you. If you will teach me." Yuna looked at this tall, cold, ancient being who had doubted her and reported her and tried to have her removed. She saw not an enemy, but someone who had simply never been shown another way. Someone who was lonely. Someone who needed love too. "Sit with us," she said, patting the grass beside her. "Dinner will be ready soon. And there is always room for one more." Velfin hesitated. Corathy did not sit on grass. Corathy did not join groups of cubs. Corathy were alone. That was how it had always been. But maybe, he thought, that was wrong. Slowly, with great difficulty, he folded his forearms and lowered himself to the ground. Our eye immediately climbed into his lap. He froze. No cub had ever touched him before. Not once. Not ever. "You are very shiny," Tiri said, looking up at him with big golden eyes. "I will bring you extra food tomorrow." Something happened inside Velfin's chest. Something warm and strange and wonderful. He did not know what it was. He did not have a word for it. But as he sat there, surrounded by small cubs who were no longer afraid of him, watching the human who had changed everything with nothing but kindness and patience and love, he finally understood. He understood why the cubs brought food to her plate. They were not giving her nutrition. They were giving her their hearts. And now, at last, Velfin had something to give too. "Thank you," he said to Tiri. His voice was rough. His eyes were stinging in a way they never had before. "I would like that very much." Tiri smiled and snuggled closer. Yuna reached over and rested her small hand on Velfin's large arm. The other cubs crept closer, curious and no longer afraid. And there, in the garden dome on Station Orion 7, floating in the cold darkness between stars, a new family was born. Not of blood. Not of species, not of duty or survival or ancient rules, but of love, just love. And that, in the end, was enough.